Hey students, this video is for an example that's similar to question 3 and 4 from your quiz. Go ahead and correct this on your corrections worksheet, and then you will go ahead and correct the one that you missed or the ones that you missed from 3 and 4, and then also explain your error. All right, so we're actually going to use point slope to get us started, and I have that recorded on the previous page, so I'm just going to copy and paste that in. This is actually written on the top of your quiz, so that you should have seen that at the top. Okay. All right, notice on this one they gave us the slope, so we don't have to calculate it. They give us that, and we're going to put 1/3 in right here. All right. The graph should help us kind of see if we are on cue here as we do our work. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my first point of 5, -1. Your correction worksheet doesn't have a graph, so you don't have to create the graph. I'm just doing that for a visual supplement to the explanation. So now that I've plotted my point, I know that my slope is 1/3. So that means I have to go down 1 and run, excuse me, it's a positive 1/3. Did I say negative? I meant positive. Positive 1/3. So we're going to go up 1 and over 3. Okay, so from here, up 1 over 3. And if I kind of follow that trend working backwards, we can get a rough estimate of where that line's going to cross through the y-axis at. And so it looks like somewhere between -2 and -3. My point's got a little off here, so I'll move that. Yeah, so somewhere between -2 and -3. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and plug the ordered pair in, and we'll distribute the slope and then solve for y. So we're going to have y minus the y value from my ordered pair. The y value from my ordered pair in this example is -1. So that's going to go right here. So y minus a -1. Turn that into a plus right away. There were a ton of you that were messing this up because you didn't make that adjustment right away. All right, fix that right away. All right, and that's equal to our slope, which they told us here was 1/3. Okay, in the parentheses, the x gets recorded. A lot of you were putting the x on the outside. That's not what you want to do. All right, minus the x1 value, which is really just this number right here. It's the x value from a point that exists on the line. So I'm going to take x minus 5 right here. Okay. Now, when we go to distribute the fraction, you got to be a little bit careful. All right. I want you to put the 5 over 1, and that way when we do our distribution, we can see that the 1 is in the numerator, and that's going to get multiplied by -5. And the 3 is in the denominator, and that's going to get multiplied by 1. All right, that's what you got to be careful of. So when we distribute 1/3, 1/3 times x is going to be the first term, and our second term will be the numerator times the numerator. So I know a positive times a negative is a negative. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 1 is 3. And then if we subtract 1 on both sides, we end up with y equals 1/3 x minus 5/3 minus 1. And I'm going to put the 1 over 1. And so at this point, we're basically done other than getting a common denominator on these two terms and recording them as one value. So if I copy the first one down, I notice that the denominators here, if we make a common denominator of 3, that means I multiplied by 3. So I need to do the same thing on the top. So times 3. So this would be 3 over 3. Negative 5 minus 3 would be a negative 8/3. And if you want to get an approximate value of negative 8/3, you can just divide that. It's like negative 2.6. Let's just check the graph. Yep, negative 2.67 makes sense. Let's see if the rest of it does. We have our negative 8/3 for our y-intercept. We have 1/3 x, where 1/3 represents the slope. And this should be the final equation of our line. No decimals. Keep it in fractional form.